Okay, so I'm going to try and do this more calmer in part 2, so please. Okay, so my teacher would come around, he would inspect my work, he'd look at me from behind me without notifying me that, hey, I've marked you off on this. This would leave me to the point where I'd be sitting there twiddling my thumbs, or I'd do other schoolwork. I'd do anything to keep myself occupied while I waited to get confirmation of something, which most of the time was already, I was already marked off from, but I was never told, which was just wrong. So things got out of hand a lot. TAFE said, oh yes, we'll give you someone to help you. The thing is that the help I needed was someone who knew the actual work, knew what had to be done, and would be able to sit there, read out the question to me, probably word it in a different way without having to sit there and discuss it with me, which is the only sort of person they got, or were able to pick up for me, and that would have proven to have wasted even more time. So I pretty much stressed myself out to begin with, and it began to really wear down very quickly going through TAFE. When things began to fall down, before we go on with that, the team leader for the department got me into I had to do an access course, just a little access course. About the only office program I didn't know anything about. So they put me into the class and he starts going, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I don't understand what he's talking about. So I say it to him and he goes, well, I don't know any other way of wording it, blah, blah, blah. I ended up having to convince this person to sort of change the way the course is done. Now yes, I'm selfish. I can't understand it, so what I have to do is to get things done in a little different way. TAFE, the Polytechnic teachers, one of my main teachers knew that I'm much better when it comes to actual hands-on stuff. I'm much better in the lab than I am in the classroom. Theory isn't my stronghold. Unfortunately, most of this work there was theory. I'm surprised that they didn't decide, well, okay, we know this person's weaknesses and we know his strengths, so why not we just make things easier and give them more practical instead of majority of theory? No, they weren't willing to do that. But I do have to admit, they did offer me 2 alternatives. One was doing things on the internet which would have made everything theory, and yeah, that would have worked. The other one was to complete the course on another campus. All well and true. Something I did actually agree to and was willing to try out. The only problem is that when it came to the point about asking me and listening, I agreed, but he just kept talking, saying, well, we need to try to find a way to solve this, so on and so on, but never acknowledged my agreement to giving it a try on both areas, which left me confused. So that pretty much fell through. The only thing I'm glad about is I didn't actually have to pay for this, otherwise I would have been really annoyed. So I'm left with that scenario. TAFE has really done it in for me. I really should also mention that this was during a transition period where they were bringing TAFE were at the point where they were moving from one area to another. Things pretty much got out of hand, and they really could have handled me better. Unfortunately, this has pretty much put me off wanting to go back there, and I'm thinking that if I am going to try to figure out why things went the way they did, I might have to go through and see advocacy, I can't pronounce the name, get a third party to get involved and probably get something out of it, although Polytechnic doesn't seem to be really interested in trying to find out or explain themselves, which is rather annoying. So I'm well left with the matter here, wondering, well, should I just completely shy away and do what I've been doing constantly? Well, since I left TAFE, and that's pretty much stopped socialising as much as I did. I mean, I could have gone back to volunteering at the community centre, but after what's happened there, and what's happened with Polytechnic, I'm not exactly feeling too proud about going, or too strong about going out and trying to communicate with people that much. So I'm left with this scenario. Yay. One other thing that I'm finding rather interesting with Polytechnic, and I'm going to try to wrap this up with this. Before I left, there was something that was very strong in the air. Apparently, one of the students' computers were messed with. This was one of the systems in the lab. Someone changed the jumper settings on the motherboard, and this being an old system, doing that pretty much, well, can either damage the processor or it won't work at all. So they were freaking out. I didn't actually get to see them freak out, but I believe most people have the idea that I was the one who tampered with the system. The thing is that I didn't have anything against that person, and I didn't actually touch their computer. But here's the best part. When I was at Polytechnic last time, it was called TAFE, they insisted that if you were the last person to leave a room, you close the door and make sure it's locked. They didn't seem to put that through to a lot of people. My guessing is, and this is going on some theory, that nobody left the actual laboratory closed, which means that all the expensive equipment in there were pretty much out in the open, and anyone could have gone in there and taken stuff. Which wouldn't be surprised if they did. Anyway, I'm walking down from class, so I don't know if this was lunchtime or the recess, and the lab door's open, so I go, okay. I take one step into the door. I don't walk around in there or anything, I just take one step. So I don't even go past the door itself with it open on the inside. I look around and I go, huh. Turn around and walk out. The thing is that if that hadn't been the first time the door, I'm not sure if the door had been left open before in the past, or if it had been closed, but it could have been that day. And if that occurred after I did that, if I had closed the door, fine. The thing is, I didn't close the door. I was afraid of getting into trouble for doing something that I shouldn't have, which was close the door. And the students would have gotten upset anyway, not realising that, hey, you know, security, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, people there didn't seem to realise that when it comes to computers, you don't leave doors open. You make sure you lock down a system. So if you walk away, and I just think it's funny. And to be honest with you, I hope people believe that I did it. That way, when it comes around to technically bite me in the ass, I can just simply say, I didn't do it. And if you believed I did it, well, fine. That's your choice. But still, I find it absolutely funny how it was left open. So my Polytechnic experience has been rather repressing. Anyway, I actually do feel better. It is very therapeutic. And I'm going to have to cut it off here since I'm about to run out, and I don't want to make a third video, so my Polytechnic was rather distressing. And this is the Hobart campus we're talking about. Yeah, I do feel better. Anyway, I need to see a psychiatrist again.